YouTube was in with it. It's your boy Zell. I'm back with another banger video, man. In this video, we got shocking news. I don't want Crawford now. I want all the belts first. Says Jaron Ennis. Say it ain't so. Well, we expected this. Let's get it.
Is more likely in that the go to 154 and fight Crawford, or stay at 147 and continue to collect belts in pursuit of undisputed? What do you prefer? I'm doing both. But you only got one choice. Next
We say
fight.
he doing both.
Next fight. If you had to choose between moving up 154 fighting Crawford, or you want to stay at 147 and get the other belts, what would you prefer? I'm gonna collect the belts and then undisputed at 47, and then go to 54. So that's your preference. That's my goal. I'm already here. I got one belt already. It's time to collect the rest of them. Then finish
Strap sealed.
hopefully, we bang these fights right out, and I'll be 54, by maybe summertime next year, or in the summertime. Gotcha.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, many people have sent me this. Obviously, many of the Terrence Crawford fans, they have sent me this video. And, they stated that, you see, Jaron Boots Ennis is ducking Terrence Bud Crawford, right? And I'm going to say this, right? It's not Jaron Boots Ennis ducking Terrence Crawford. It's the fans that was demanding this fight, and Jaron Boots Ennis flaming, waving the fire, flaming the fire, however you say it, right? He is.
Do you want to
Everybody got
see
to
how
eat.
much money you're eligible for? If you were in a car crash within the last 2 years, that was not your fault. You
Not calling out Terrence Crawford and setting his sights on Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford is the best fighter in his division, and Terrence Crawford is the world champion in his division, and there was a lot of comparisons to his style and Terrence Crawford's style. And because of that, right, we got a lot of, the Terrence Crawford conversations and questions towards Jaron Boots Ennis. Jaron Boots Ennis has always had his sights set on becoming undisputed at welterweight, right? And the thing is, Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford was the two champions in his division at welterweight,
Facts.
and they were the only champions. Errol Spence
Facts.
held 3 belts. He held the WBA.
It's just ironic how Boots never got an opportunity. I think he was the mandatory for a year. So maybe that's when Errol and Bud fought the year he became mandatory. But Errol was champion for 6 years, bro. For the WBC, I believe, or the IBF, one of those two. And it's just ironic how Boots never got that opportunity.
The IBF and the WBC. Terrence Crawford, he held the WBO title. So he had to go through Terrence Crawford and or Errol Spence. Now, Errol Spence, at the time, was the bigger money fight. Errol Spence was the bigger draw. Errol Spence had 3 belts, and Errol Spence was on the same side of the street as Jaron Boots Ennis. So they went the IBF route to be the mandatory challenger for the IBF, okay? And that made sense. You could get 3 belts at one time, and it's a bigger money fight, right? And they both undefeated, and they both top 5 pound for pound at the time, okay? Terrence Crawford was pound for pound number 1. Errol Spence was in the top 5, depending upon where you wanted to place him in the top 5, right? So Jaron Boots Ennis has had his sights set on being the champion there. Just happened so 2 of the biggest names, 2 of the best fighters in the world, and 2 of the more polarizing figures in today's boxing game resided in his division. And he has similarities to
Bud.
Terrence Bud Crawford. Switch him from Southpaw to Orthodox. Terrence Crawford is the best switch fighter in all of boxing.
Since Marvin
And so
Hagler, huh?
once it was noticed that Jaron Ennis switches a lot, because many fighters switch from Southpaw to Orthodox, they just don't do it as effective and as noticeable and as flashy as Terrence Crawford and Jaron Ennis, right? So with that said, that became the focal point. And Jaron Ennis turned down nothing but his collar, saying, listen, If Terrence Crawford available, I want it. If Errol Spence available, I want it. And it became bigger because the comparisons, once Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford finally fought, because that was the fight that everybody wanted to see, Terrence Crawford versus Errol
Man,
Spence.
we had been waiting for that fight for about 5 years. That was the most anticipated fight for 5 years. Just like Canelo Benavidez, just like Bevo Better Be. These dudes ain't fight each other yet. Fight, man. What y'all waiting on? Come on, man.
Right? And once they finally fought, and Terrence Crawford was so dominant in the fight. Now, if that fight was more competitive, there was a knockdown on both sides, or one knockdown separated the fight, and Terrence Crawford won the decision, and he got a knockdown, nobody would be talking about Jaron Ennis fighting either guy. We'd be talking about the contractual obligated rematch. Plain and simple. That would be the focal point for everybody, would be the rematch. But because Terrence Crawford was so dominant in the fight, and he dropped Errol Spence 3 times and then stopped him in the ninth, and it wasn't competitive, it was one-sided, and he became the undisputed champion, the fact that they had a contractual obligation to rematch one another, that went out the window because people felt like it wasn't worth it, okay? And so the next best thing is Jaron Boots Ennis. So he was thrust into that position. Now, keep in mind, he was the IBF mandatory challenger for Errol Spence for a year. Okay? But again, nobody was pushing for Jaron Ennis. It was being mentioned, but nobody was overly aggressively pushing for the fight. It was being mentioned, but nobody was overly aggressively pushing for the fight. Because you wanted to see Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. But once it was over, everybody immediately aggressively started to push for the fight.
Man, people, it's crazy how they push for all these fights. Well, it's just ironic because Bud was pushing. Bud was in Boots' position, essentially. Bud was getting stalled out by a lot of people, and they didn't want to fight him because he was on the quote unquote wrong side of the street. Oh, they didn't know the type of talent this man had, bro. So Bud was in Boots' position, full of talent, full of promise. Didn't get any opportunity. But when Bud finally got his opportunity, it was so late. So I just hope that Boots get his opportunity way sooner. Maybe Bud does give him that opportunity because he don't want Boots to have a similar situation that he did to get stalled out and waited on. But Boots gonna have a bunch of fights at 47. If Boots can beat Virgil Ortiz, if he can beat all those guys at 40, Mario Barrios at 47, then Boots gonna be a household name. Just like Terrence Crawford, Boots gonna be a household name, bro. So man, I ain't gonna keep y'all here for too long, but what I will say is Boots, I don't think he too desperate for a Bud fight. I do think that if he goes to if he pulls a Devin Haney, becomes undisputed, you know, he with Eddie Hearn, Devin Haney cool with Eddie Hearn, he becomes undisputed, then his stock goes up. You know, the more accomplishments you have, the more your stock go up, and you beat one of these fighters with a lot of hype behind their name. Devin beat Lomachenko. Boots can beat a Virgil Ortiz, any of these guys in his division, a Teofimo Lopez, a Brian Norman Jr. He can beat these guys and ultimately become a household name, bro. So yeah, bro, I think Boots should clear out that division because Bud did it his way. Nobody gave it to Bud. Bud cleared out 140, then moved up and won it. He waited 5 years for Errol. But when he got that opportunity, he took it. He never let it go. Excuse me. So that's what Boots should do. When you get that opportunity, take it. And don't let it go. So, hey, look, YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, share this to somebody who need to hear one with the 2K subs. We're going to get the kind of mafia too strong. Love y'all. Till the next time.